Hello, I'm back. I've been missing everyone, and I am telling you the truth. I'm so glad to be here with you today. Now, breaking out the dad hat because we've got another story about dadding. I'll just jump right into it because it's kind of a long one. I called the police on myself to teach my 9-year-old daughter a lesson. This is a true story, folks, no embellishments. I learned not to expect her to visit me if I'm ever locked up. That's also true. Eleanor is not going to be visiting me if I ever go to jail or prison. So, picture of an angry kid who's not mine. We were driving through suburbia on a sweltering summer afternoon. Ella, my 9-year-old daughter in the back seat, peppered me with questions about when she would next be able to play video games. Anybody relate to that? I don't know. I need to figure out what we're eating for dinner first. I wanted to get home. We'd spent the day at our local pool and then running errands. We were both ready to unwind. I turned down the narrow road that led directly to our house and found myself in a stare down with another car. A delivery vehicle sat facing us, blinkers on, taking up over half of the street. Damn it, I thought. No driver in sight. This is a common occurrence and always frustrating on this road lined with parked cars. Don't be a wimp. Show them you're in charge, a devilish voice told me. I accelerated slowly and assuredly to squeeze through the space between my opponent and a red SUV parked to the right. I can't type the words to give justice to the sound of the two cars scraping together. Link to an audio, but it's something like this. It was really violent sounding, even though it was really slow. I hate the sound. Yes, I sideswiped the innocent red SUV. Dad, you hit that car! Ella shrieked from the back seat. Why did you hit that car? Now, one thing I've learned from Ella over the years is if I do something wrong, she has no tolerance for it. She will call me out in front of other people. She will tell me I'm a piece of crap. She will not ask me if I'm okay if I hit another car. She will say, You hit another car, make it better. So, I was not surprised that that was her reaction. Panic set in immediately. My first instinct was to keep driving, pretending nothing had happened. All it was a little sideswipe. But I knew better. The delivery driver, who was already getting back into his car, stared at me in disbelief before driving off. Not his problem. Yeah, that's it. I was glad for that. I didn't want him to stick around and laugh at me for being a jerk. Still, the sound was so loud, someone had to hear it. Sweat beaded up on my forehead, despite the air conditioner keeping my car interior cool. I expected the owner of the SUV to come confront me any second as we sat there. It was really loud. I was surprised. Nobody came out. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm going to get us off the road and take care of this. Please don't worry. I was mindful that my sensitive and impressionable child might start to spiral into a panic if I didn't get this right. I drove to the stop sign at the end of the street, no more than 100 feet away from my house. What should I do? Damn, I just wanted to be home. I wanted dinner. I wanted to time travel to 30 seconds ago before I decided to be an asshole on purpose. Leave a comment if you've ever been an asshole on purpose and what the outcome of that was. Because, yes, I was just being an asshole trying to show the delivery driver who's boss. I can squeeze in between you with your stupid blinkers and not being in your car and this other SUV on the side, but I couldn't. Dad, what are you doing? Give me a minute. I'm thinking about what to do, I said. There didn't seem to be anyone interested in investigating the sounds. With the delivery driver long gone and the sidewalks and road were empty, I contemplated driving that last 100 feet home and forgetting anything happened. Dad, whose car is that? What are we going to do? I sat at the end of the road, frozen in thought. I should just drive away. No real harm done. I squeezed the steering wheel, daydreaming about what would happen if I just put the car in drive and finished our trip. Would I find the police at my door tomorrow? Would I escalate something minor into a potential stint in the slammer? I locked eyes with Ella in my rearview mirror. I will do the right thing, I decided. But what was the right thing? I had no intention of knocking on doors to see who owned the car. It could have been anyone from anywhere who parked on this road. I pulled out my phone to Google what to do when you sideswipe a car. I got conflicting answers. Number 1, leave a note with my name and contact info and all will be fine. Number 2, leave and immediately be subject to the charges of leaving the scene of an accident. I rummaged through the glove department for a pen and paper to leave a note on the damaged car. Let's get out on the sidewalk. I'm going to leave a note on the car so they can call me later. Ella hopped out with me, seemingly appeased that I was proactively admitting my guilt. We checked out the damage on our car, some minor scrapes and a cracked reflector covering a light. So that was all on the passenger side. Nobody was in the passenger side. Ella was in the back the whole time in her car seat. As luck would have it, the pin was dead. Looking around, I spotted a bystander turning the corner onto the sidewalk. I asked if he knew the owner of the red SUV. He shrugged, clearly clueless. Every part of me still wanted to drive off and leave this mess behind. The lack of response and the dead pin were signs that I was off the hook. That was my sign from God, I thought. Just leave. Nobody cares. I looked at Ella, who had begun to calm down. All I wanted to do was leave. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Teaching my daughter the right thing to do was more important than my own discomfort. I was hungry, and it was hot, and I was ready to be home. Ella, everything will be okay. I need to call the police. Don't worry, I won't get in trouble, but I need to make sure that I do the right thing, and I need to let the police know I hit a car. Okay, Dad. I swore a hint of amusement flickered in her eye in response to my words. With a sigh, I looked up the non-emergency number for our local police department. Hi, I'd like to report an accident. I hit a parked car. Later, we stood there on the sidewalk as the police SUV approached us. I was dumb and I tried to squeeze between a delivery car and this SUV. I pointed it out to the officer. Are you taking my dad to jail? Eleanor chimed in. And I see I just switched from Ella to Eleanor. She actually goes by Ella at school, and I've called her Eleanor since she was born, or Nora, or Norbs, or Norby. She had always been wary of the police, her imagination running wild with the idea that they were there to take people away, to punish. I hoped this encounter would show her a different side of them, one that was there to help and uphold the law. Something I myself don't always feel is certain. The officer said he was going to call on the license plate of the car we'd hit to see who owned it. The owner turned out to live in the house directly in front of where the SUV was parked. I wondered how they didn't hear the sound. He went to knock on the SUV owner's door. A second police SUV pulled up as we waited in our car. I guessed it was a slow day for crime. The second officer asked me for my license, registration, and insurance. Smiling, he told us we could wait in our air-conditioned car. I wish, I thought. Ella wouldn't let us sit in our car and idle. We kill the environment when we do that. So we sat in our car, where it was probably hotter than it was outside. I watched the first officer knocking on the door for what felt like forever. Eventually, a lady holding a baby came to the porch. She looked startled as the officer pointed to her car and then up the road to where we were sitting. I'm going to hell, I thought. Come on, Ella. Let's get out. I want to apologize for hitting her car. We walked down the street toward where the car's owner stood, talking to the officer and surveying the scrapes up on her vehicle. Clearly no major damage. As we approached, Ella blurted out, "My dad is a bad driver." I couldn't help but cringe. The SUV owner, my victim, seemed more amused than angry. Also, she was standing there with the baby, and I think to me that explained why she didn't hear it and why she didn't come to the door very quickly when the police had come. I'm imagining she was taking a nap with her child and enjoying that much more than what she woke up to. I'm sorry, it was completely my fault, I said, from 20 feet away. The owner waved. Good enough for me. We returned to our car to wait for the officer to finish processing my information. You know, they told us we could sit in our car because it's so hot outside. We can turn on the air conditioner, I told Eleanor. No. Why do you hate the environment? She seriously wants me to put on my seatbelt and have 100% everything ready before I start the car. She does not like a second of idling. I kept my thoughts to myself as sweat trickled down my spine and bonded my butt to the car's seat. Finally, the officers who took my information returned it to me through the window. All clear? I asked. Everything checks out, he told me, and then turned to speak to the officer who'd been dealing with the SUV owner, now standing next to him. Do you want to ask them your questions? I asked Eleanor, as the two officers discussed something that likely had nothing to do with the situation at hand. I couldn't imagine this was anywhere near what they actually cared about. No, Ella said. I looked at her in the rear view. Can I ask them? I said. Sure. Hey, my daughter has some questions she'd like to ask, I said, as the first officer to respond handed me a business card that contained a handwritten report number and his badge number. You can call and get the report in 48 hours, he said. I'm happy to answer some questions. He leaned into the window of the back seat. Ella's anxiety manifested itself in a barrage of questions. What would you do if you arrested my dad and you couldn't reach my mom? Who would stay with me? Her voice was a mix of genuine curiosity and deep-seated fear. She'd asked me all of these questions and more since an incident 6 months prior when I'd been pulled over for speeding in a rural Ohio county. I'd been let off with an apology, not a warning, from a deputy sheriff. Yes, he apologized to me for pulling me over. No, from a deputy sheriff who'd heard Eleanor screaming at me as he approached the car. Why are you speeding? Do you hate your family? She'd wailed. I'd imagined the deputy later shooting the breeze back at the station, sharing about the guy who would never speed again thanks to his daughter. It was true. I'd set the cruise control to 55 miles an hour the remaining 4 hours of that trip home from Ohio. Still, she brought it up on occasion, an unforgivable infraction in her innocent eyes. Yes, she screamed at me so loud the officer was laughing as he stumbled towards the car. Or it was a deputy sheriff, so the deputy, as he approached the car, was laughing at me, and he apologized. After he gave me my license back, he apologized for pulling me over. It was so good it almost felt like we had staged it, but Eleanor was angry. We'd call your mother or another family member who can come and get you, the deputy replied. What if my mom isn't around? What happens if you can't reach anyone to take care of me? My sister lives in LA and my brother lives in Ohio. We try really hard to find someone who can look after you. I suppose we could end up taking you to Children's Services if we absolutely couldn't find anyone. But you would be looked after. This was starting to feel a bit much to me. But we aren't taking your dad anywhere today. Don't you worry. My dad got pulled over for a speeding ticket in Ohio. He's a terrible driver. Okay, hey, thanks for coming out. I didn't want to leave the scene. I just wanted to make sure I did the right thing, I said. Your dad did the right thing today, the officer said. I won't visit him if he goes to jail, Ellis shared. I decided it was a night to order pizza when we finally got home. We'd added an hour onto our trip with the police interlude. I spent a few minutes texting Ella's mom about what had happened, knowing it would be a topic Ella would bring up the next time she was with her. I believe transparent co-parenting is the only way to do it successfully. Her mother, unsurprisingly, sent some supportive words in reply. I wandered into the living room. Ella sat glued to the TV, a YouTube influencer providing voiceover to a video game at a pace and tone that never fails to fill me with panic. If a heart attack came in voice form, YouTube influencers have mastered this. You really wouldn't come visit me in jail? I sat next to her on the couch. Heck no, she said, and I knew she meant it. I laughed, using the moment to lighten the mood. It was a stark reminder of the importance of maintaining a sense of humor, even in serious situations. Parenting is often about balancing the heavy with the light, and today had given me a heavy dose of both. This experience taught me more than just the importance of responsibility. It highlighted the need for open communication between me and Eleanor. How do I talk to Ella about interacting with law enforcement, about admitting guilt when doing wrong? It reminded me that parenting is a continuous journey of teaching and learning where every moment, even the challenging ones, hold valuable lessons. I hope that through this incident, my daughter learned that it's okay to make mistakes and own up to them, that you can also do what's right even when you potentially when you could make other choices. I also hope she saw that the authorities can be there to help, not just punish. Now, for this next part, I felt the need to add on some kind of life lesson, some kind of larger message. So bear with me while I get through this. I'm sorry if it sounds like a lecture. I've spent 45 years making questionable choices. If I'm lucky, I'll have an opportunity for another 45 years doing the same. I'll be happy if I make enough good decisions to counteract my poor decisions and set a good enough example for my kids. Our youth are the only hope we have for a better future. I don't deserve accolades. I did feel like it's important to say this. Like, I'm not special. Calling the police on myself, it was just a silly thing that let me write an article to talk about it. I don't feel like I'm a hero for it. I don't deserve accolades or even acknowledgement for attempting to do what I thought was right in the end. I do hope it adds to a body of decisions that set an example of being accountable for your actions for my children. I have always done that, regardless of the consequences. I want my children to be proactively accountable for the things they do. When I look around, I don't see accountability reflected in what is conveyed in our popular media. I see politicians throwing fits and twisting the truth to avoid responsibility. I see business leaders changing the rules, making false reports, poisoning our environment, and lying that they have solved problems they originally created. I see religious figures committing horrid acts in the name of their God and absolving themselves of sin versus taking responsibility. None of this is a recent phenomenon, so you didn't hear me say nowadays. It's timeless in human history, but it is what our children see constantly on social media. I hope my children and all children see through this veil of false victimization and choose to create a world where accountability and character matter more than money, fame, and power. And that's what I hope my actions contributed to teaching Eleanor. As for me, if I ever do end up in jail, I know not to expect any visits from her, which honestly might be best for everyone involved. And with that, thank you. Please feel free to leave a comment, and I'd love it if you would subscribe to this channel, like this specific video, and let me know what I can do. Happy to take any requests. Thank you, and see everyone later. Bye.